Hey guys, welcome back to Statistics Explained. This will be our last video on Python fundamentals, and after watching this video you can switch back to your web scraping in Python and you can continue learning web scraping. So in this video we will learn about data structure, dictionaries and creating functions in Python. So let's get started. I will just open my VS Code and I will create a new file. I will choose Python file and I'll just save it first. So I'll say fundamentals. Alright. Now what we are going to do is we are going to understand what are actually data structure in Python. So suppose you have 15 values and you want to store these values together. So the best part is you don't have to create 15 different variables for it, because you want to reference those value. You can get those value, but you don't have to name 15 different variables. So you don't have to go and say store a equals to 1, b equals to 2 or c equals to 3. Instead of that, I can create a list in Python. So just to show you, I can say example list, and in this list I can store as many values I want. So suppose I just stored this. Now I want to reference this later on. So I can actually reference my example list and then I can fetch variables from it. Remember one thing, that the list start from the index value 0. So if I have to fetch any digit, I have to start from 0 and then only I can fetch the digits. Just to show you how exactly it will print up, so I can write print eg underscore list. Now if I run this, you can see I have my list here. Next, what I can do is I can also find out what is the type of this. So I have stored the values, but what exactly the type is. So because Python know that I have put square brackets which are used for list, so it must be telling me here that this is list type. But let's check. If I check here, it's a list type. Now the best part about list in Python is you can store different operators in it. So if I go here and I write new underscore list, and here I give square brackets in order to start a list, I can actually add different things into it. So I can write this, I can write this, I can write but as a word, and I can write true here. I can also write okay. So I have a list now which involves different type of operators. I can ask Python to print this and show me what exactly the elements are. So I can do this, and if you see here, I have my list printed with all different type of elements in it. Now that we have added elements in the list, we can also fetch those elements. So suppose I want to fetch true operator from this list. What I'll do is I will write print new list, and I will say what exactly the index value for my true operator will be. So giving the starting point as 0, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So I will write here 4 and I will just print this. Alright, so it has fetched the element for me. Now suppose I am actually working out with this list, but I want to fetch out the element from the last part. So suppose I start from here, because there are too many elements in the list, I start my index value from here. So when we start from the end, it is always -1. So this will be -1 and this will be -2. So if I write here print my new list, and here I just write minus true, it should again get me true. If you see here, I still got true. And similarly, if I put minus 1 here, it should get me false. So see, we are getting false. That is how actually you get to the list and then you fetch out different elements to work with. Let me show you some more functions of the list. So in case I want to fetch out elements 2 and 3 and 4 from this list, I can actually write print new underscore list, and now I have to fetch elements. So I'll write, I have to start from my index value 2 and then I have to add 1 to it, and it should go till I reach 5, and then I'll just put this. So it's an end. This is an exclusion condition, so after 5th it will stop. So let's run this and see what exactly we should get. Ideally we should have 69 and then the index value 3rd and the 4th element. So we have this here. So that is how it works with the list. Another thing I can show you is I can also go from the first element to the very end. So I won't give any condition here, which means it should add 1 to it and it should go till the very end. So let's print this and see the result. And in this case I have starting to end all the values, but I did not edit the index value 0, so I don't have 1 in this list. So that is how actually you work with the list. Now the concept come of nested lists also. So sometimes what we have is, in order to make things simple, we use nested lists. That means a list in a list. So if I give you an example of nested list, I just write this down. So I can say nested list equal, and here I will have my elements. So I have 1 and 2, then I have 3 and 4 and 5, and here I have another list here, so it has 6 and 7. Now see, I use square brackets in Python to create list. So in this case I have started with my first list, then I have one more list inside, and I have one more list. Let me just add a comma here and a underscore here so we can identify things easily. Alright, now what I'll do is I will just fetch out the values from this list. So this is index value 0. So if I go to second, this means I will go to this index value, and if I fetch the second element from this, so first element again 3 will have an index value 0 for this list. So I will just write this. I'll write print nested list, and here I will write 2, and because I have to go to second list also, so I will write again 2, and if I run this I will have my desired value. So I have 5 here. Alright, similarly I can go ahead and I can also go to this list and fetch the first element out of it. So I can fetch 7 if I just change my code to this. Alright, so it will be my third element from the list, and then when I reach to the third position I am taking the first element, that means 0 and 1. So 7 should be the answer, and if you see here I have got 7. Alright, so that is how you work with the nested list. Now another interesting part is, if the list has been created earlier, I can add element to it, and I can also drop elements out of it. In order to add or drop elements from the list, we use append and pop function. So let us see an example of that also. So I will write here nested list, and in my list I will append an element which is AB. So if I have append this element, then if I print my list, it should show up. Let us just print this. And if you see here, I have it in my list. Now I can also go ahead and drop this. So in order to drop this, I can just say nested list dot pop, and because this element is on the -1 position from the right, so I can drop it without writing anything. So let's see. I'll just write print nested lists, and now if you see, I have dropped my last element successfully. Another thing is, if I've just put here some index value, then I can drop that also. So suppose I just add a index value here, and I'll add index value of 1. In this case, it will delete the element on index value 1 for me. So let us run this. And if you see here, I have successfully dropped 2 from the list. If I have to drop the value 3, 4, 5, that is entire list, I can just change this element to 2. And if I print this, I have successfully dropped my element on the index value 2. One more important function is about finding out the number of elements are in the list. So for that we use length function. So I'll just write print len nested. Now this will actually count what exactly are the number of elements in the list. So if I just run this, if you see here, my output is this, and in this, if I go with index value, this will be 0, but if I have to count the number of elements in it, then it is first, second, this whole list is another element, this is third, and this one is fourth. So that is how it counts the number of elements in the list. Alright, so that is how you work with the list. Let us move to dictionaries now. So what happens in a dictionary is, we have a key and we have values. Whenever we have to refer anything from the dictionary, we always use keys. We cannot use indexing in dictionary as we were using in the list, because it does not work here. Alright, so let us create a dictionary. So I will write students, and here what I'll do is I will just tell Python that I am going to start a dictionary because I have given curly brackets. I will just write down the name of people. So I'll write first person, and I'll just write uh, some random number, or probably you can say the age of the person. So next I'll just write Raz, and for this I will write some age. Then I will go and write the next person name. So I'll write Gitika here, and I will just add a random number here. Then I will write another person, Krishna, and here I will again write the value. Let me just make this capital. Yeah. So next what I'll do is I will just fetch out the value. So I have keys here. So if I just write print students, and here if I just fetch out the value for Gitika from this dictionary, it should give me 25. And let us see. So I have reached to the value for the key, that is Gritika in this case. So another interesting thing is I can add more keys to this dictionary. So suppose I want to add one more key, I'll just say here student, and my key name would be Pulkit, and here I will just add some value to it. So if this is done, then I just have to print my dictionary back and see what changes has come up. So I will just print this, and if you see here, I have Pulkit added to my dictionary. Now another interesting thing is I can also change the values of my keys. So suppose I have students here and I want to change value for Geeta. So suppose Geeta's age is 30 now, and before running this I'll just write print student. So in my updated list now, the key Geeta should have a value of 30, and if you see here, I have it here. I have Geeta as 30. So the new value has been updated in the list. Similarly, I can also delete a particular value. So suppose I have students, and here I just thought of deleting. In order to know whether this is deleted, I again have to print the list. So I'll just write print students. And this is not Christian, this is Krishna. Alright. So let us run this and see. And if you see here, earlier Krishna was there. Now in my new list, there is no key which mention Krishna. So that is how you actually work with the dictionary. Now we will move to another interesting case study of using dictionary. Let me delete this and this, and let us start with the case. In this case, we will ask a user to input some string, and we will present in the form of output how many times each character has been used in that string. So in order to do this kind of program, what I'll do is I will start with an empty dictionary. So I'll create a empty dictionary, and once I have this kind of dictionary, I will prompt a user to put some input. So in order to store that input in a variable, I'll just use s, and then I'll ask input. For character in my variable s, just update the dictionary with the count of each character. So in order to ask it to update this, I will use dict.get function. So I will write dictionary for character, and this is meanwhile the final output variable in which it will store the count of each character coming up from the user. And for counting that, I will use dict.get 0, and I have to add 1 to it so that it can keep on increasing the value number of times the character is coming up, right? So once I'm done here, I will just print this. I will write this, and then I will write join. Next I will just open the brackets, and I'll just take whatever the values coming up from the user. So I'll write this, and I will write this. Now I will just mention that it should take the key and the value coming for the dictionary. I'll just write k and v. Now I will just mention for k and v in dict dot items, and I will just run this. Okay, I have to put this in pair also, and I'll run this again. So now if you see, it is working for us, and I'll just write here the user input. So I'll write Jai Shri Ram, and if you see here, it is actually counting the number of times each value is occurring here. I can also do one thing. Instead of counting it like this, I can put the everything into a new row. So I will just add this here, and let us run this again. I again have to give an input. I'll again write Jai Shri Ram, and if you see here, now I have how many times J is occurring, how many times A comes, how many times I come. So this has actually prompted the user, and then based on that the program itself is counting how many characters are coming up in each term. So let us move to something new. I'll just delete this. So let's move to functions now. In functions, what actually happen is we define a function, then we define its name, and then we pass an argument to it. So the idea is that functions are actually the way of storing a particular set of program which can be executed later on, and we can also make changes to it. That is why functions are most used. So let us write a program where we have two variables x and y, and we want a difference between these two variables, and we're going to present the result, but we will use functions for this. So in order to start a function, I'll just write def define, and then I'll give name of the function, which I'll say sub, that is for subtract, and I'll just give two variables here. And all right, now what I'll do is I will ask it to return me the difference between x and y. So it is going to return that, but in order to actually give it a value of x and y, I can again write a, and since my function name is sub, I'll write xub, and sub is going to use x equal 5 and y equal 6. Now in this case, I'll just ask my function to print the value, and I will run this now. So if you see here, I have -1 as a result. Now these kind of function can also be used in different case scenarios. So suppose I have some word and I want a reverse of that word. So I can write function for that also. Let's see how can we write a function for this. So I'll again start a function with def, and then I'll give the name of the function. So instead of writing reverse, I'm writing rev. Now I'll say there would be some text for this function to actually work. And now I will just say print. Its purpose is to print the text for me, but I want the reverse of it. So I'll just say start with this and then go for -1. Now I have to also give a word to it. Otherwise, what will it print? So I'll just write here reverse this word. So the reverse of dog would be God. So before executing this, I will just select this and I'll press Control slash in order to make this as comment so that this does not get printed again. Now I will just execute it, and if you see, I have the reverse of the word. Alright, I will just comment this and I'll show you another interesting way we can use functions. Let me just delete this. Yeah. Suppose I have a sentence and I want the fill up value coming to it, and those fill up value I can take from user or I can define it in my function itself. So let us write that down. So I'll again start a function with def and I'll give it a name. Now I will say profession. So one word would be about profession and another would be about viewpoint. So I just give Alright, so now I will give a variable detail, and here I will write the kind of sentence I want. So I'll write I am an, and here I will give curly brackets in order to get the format, and next I'll write I support the, and again I am going to give curly brackets which come from the format. So here next I am going to close this and write format, and here I am going to write what exactly are the variables in my function. So I'll write profession and viewpoint. Now next I will just print the things which are there in my detail variable. So this function is actually going to take the value for profession and the viewpoint and going to fill whatever it written in the detail variable and going to print that result. But I have not actually given any value to it right now. So I will just write down the name of the function like the way we wrote earlier, and I'm going to give value to it. So I'll write here economist, and next I have to give one more value. So I'll write right wing political party. Now I will just run this and see how exactly my function is working. So if you see here, it has actually filled the complete sentence. It's written, I am an economist and I support the right wing political party. Which is actually true because I believe right wing political party does not interfere that much in the businesses and services of people as compared to left wing parties. But anyway, let's move to next topic. So I'll just select all this and I'll press Control slash. All right, let us create one more function in Python where we have the character as well as the numbers involved. So in order to start that, I'll just write def and then I'm going to give the name of the function. So I'll write info, and here I will give the variables I'm going to use. So I'll just say one would be age, one would be name, and there would be a like. Now in this case, I am going to actually enter the detail. So again, I am going to create a sentence where I am going to pick the values from the function we are creating for the variable. So I'll just write I am, and this is again I am going to do for formatting. After this, I am going to put a full stop, and next I will write I like. Again, I will give formatting, and then I am going to write I am. Since I have given age, I'll just put this year old. And because I am going to actually take these variables from the format, so I'll just write here name, like, and age. So this will take it up, and I will just write print my variable detail which have this value. One thing I just forgot to add this here. Now I will just add the values which I want to assign to this function. So I'll just write info. Here I will write Atul. And next I will write working out. And then I'm going to add 26 here. Let us run this and see what actually happens. So if you see here, it has printed I am Atul, I like working out, and I am 26 years old. Now if I just add a full stop here, then it will put a full stop also for us. So if you see here, I have a full stop now. Earlier it was not. Another interesting thing is I can actually, instead of doing this, I can write here is 25, and I won't give what actually the age is. So by default, it will take this value which is mentioned here. Just see. Now it says I'm 25 years old. Another thing is, even if this value is here, I can overwrite it by adding the age here. So if I just go here and I write 27 here and I run this, you see here, I have 27. So if you don't want to give any value, you can give by default value here. If you want to overwrite it, you can write it here. All right, now understand this. I have my info, name, like, and age. And my format is also name, like, age. So they are arranged in the same way. Now in info, if I just put my name first and then I add age, and after that I'll just add the like. So basically I'm changing this format. What will happen? I will just run this file. It's written I am Atul, I like 26, and I am working out year. This is because I have changed the info and I have not written in the format in which it was actually defined. So in order to resolve these kind of problems, what I can do is I can also tell it that name is here, age is mentioned here, and then like is mentioned here. So now Python will understand that what function contains what is my key for it and what is the value for it. So if I just run this, if you see, I am Matul, I like working out and I am 26 years old. It has correctly find out exactly which variable or which key has the what value. So that is how you correct the position of a function if the function is earlier defined and you add something new to it. Now another interesting thing is I can make this function much more flexible. So instead of giving the information in info with the name of the key and then its value, I can actually create a dictionary, and we have just learned dictionary. So let us apply that one. So I'll just keep my function name similar and I'll just keep the details similar. After detail, I will just add here return detail so that my function returns the detail to me. And now I will just create a dictionary. So I will write here dictionary. And with dictionary, I always have to use curly brackets. So I will just add curly brackets. And here I will write name in the way it should be written for a dictionary. And I will change it for age also. And similarly for the like also. Now that I have a dictionary, I will just ask it to print. So I'll write print info, which is my function. And in this, just try to print dictionary. Now why I am using two asterisks here? So this is because I have a key and I have a value. So I have a key here, I have a value for that one. That is why I have added two asterisk mark in front of dictionary. And I have to add here. Alright, let us run this now and see. So if you see here, I am Atul, I am like working out, I am 26 years old. It has taken everything perfectly just because I have given it key as well as I have given it value. Now, the most interesting part to this is I can actually keep on changing the variables I want to add in the dictionary. And then I have to just make some changes here and here. And I don't have to worry about the format coming up because dictionary contains all the values. So whatever my info function will have the name of the variable, I just have to add in the format, and then in the dictionary, I can actually add it and its value, and I will get the return detail of it. So that is how the long codes work. It gets very easy to actually manipulate them when you want to add few things or you want to delete some. Now I'll just put this all in as a comment, and I'll show you how exactly packing and unpacking an argument work. So if I just show you, I want to print 1, 2, 3 simply. So if you see here, it is basically unpacked now. Why unpacked? Because there is no brackets involved here. So if I just show you again, and I'll say I want to print, and here I will just add list 1, 2, 3, and I'll print this. You can see it is packed because it contains in a list. That is how you have a packing argument and unpacking argument. And packing argument and unpacking argument are used most when it comes to working with the functions. Alright, so I will just put this as comment. Alright, now that you have understood this, I am going to show you how you can make your function much more flexible. So if you remember here, earlier in the function we had only two variables. But what if I have too many variables to deal with? In what that case, what will you do? So I'll just paste it here, and I'll just uncomment this. Here, suppose now that I have a function where I am going to write one key, and that would be the num. Now, if I had some score here, so suppose I had a score of total 20, and in 20, I just want to create a loop. So I'll just write for num. Num is the name which is in the argument, and now I will just ask this to give me the difference between the total and the new. I am storing this in the variable total itself, so I have to write return total. Return total, and here I am going to tell what exactly the values I was using. So I'll say print my function which had some values given. The idea is that I have this function which contains my argument num. I have used this one asterisk to tell it that it is going to be the key, and total is something which has been given to me. So I have just looped it with the num which we have created, and the num actually consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll just run this. So I had to make it num because it is going for num. Okay, I will just correct the formatting also. I will just put this back. Now I will run this. So if you see here, I have 5. Now suppose I want to add few more digits to this list. So I can actually do here. I will just write 1 here, and if I run this, my sum will change to 4. Similarly, if I add 4 here, it should go to 0. See, this is how actually the function works. So basically it has created into tuple, and that's why it is able to break it up. That is why I put an asterisk here. Alright, I will just comment this out, and now we will do the last case of function where we will work with the packing of the argument. So till now we actually unpack the arguments, and that is why we use print sub and we were able to add to it. Now we will pack the argument. In order to pack the argument, I will use quarks function. So quarks is used in Python in order to pack the argument and in order to create a argument in form of list. So in quarks, you actually put the key and the value and you pack them up instead of breaking them up in tuples. So let us start working with the quarks function. I will write my function, and then I'm going to write the name of the function. Here I'm telling Python that I am going to use function which is named ABT, and I am going to give you the key as well as the value. That is why I am putting 2 asterisks. And I will use quarks. Now quarks is basically written as like this in Python, and it is very famous because it contains the keyword and the argument. So I will just start it, and now I will write for key, which I promised to Python I will give, and for value you should go to quarks dot items, and I will just do this. Now I will tell Python that what I want is I want to print in the format like this, where I want to actually put the values coming up in the curly brackets from the user, or I want to define later on. But they should have format, they should have a key, and then their value can be replaced like this. So now that I have written this, I am going to tell what exactly contains in my function. So I will write abt and write underscore wing political party, and I'll say it's good here. Now understand this, I am actually putting underscore at places where I had to add space. Next I'll do is left wing political party, and I'll say it is harsh because left wing political parties believe in government intervention. So I will just run this and see what actually happens. Oh, it says it's a syntax error somewhere. Okay, give me a second. So, okay, this should be closed here. Let us run this back. And if you see here, I have right wing political party good, left wing political party harsh. So, in the output, we don't have actually the spaces between this because I have used here double inverted commas without anything. If I just put it space here, then it will replace wherever the underscore is with the space. So let us run this one more time. And if you see here, we have the corrected output. Alright. I can also replace this with the at the rate. And if you see, the next will be coming up with the at. Alright. So that makes your functions more flexible and how exactly you unpack the argument. Alright, so that was all about functions, how exactly you can use functions in Python. Once you understand how exactly the functions work in Python, you can easily go through any of the codes and understand what exactly is happening behind the codes. There is one more topic about object-oriented programming in Python, and that is more used towards those people who are actually learning programming in Python. I will create a video on that also, but for your web scraping in Python series, you just need these 3 fundamental videos on Python. And if you understand everything here, you can continue watching your web scraping in Python series, which is quite advanced technique used in Python by the web scraper in order to fetch the data from any website. So yeah, that is all for this video. I'll see you in the next.
Thanks.